And how do you do, it seems to be quicker to get the children back into a household if they're, just by finding a competent parent, even if it's a relative.
No, in that instance, what happened was that was considered an emergency situation. The caretaker who was at home, who happened to be the mother, was drunk and passed out. The kids were wandering outside. The police get called because it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night in a neighborhood. And then they get there and they don't, and she's not able to tell them how to reach him. The neighbors won't take on responsibility for the kids. They can't find the relative, so they can't leave her there with the children. They have to remove the children, and this woman chose to go to a detox at that point. So that man came home, and neither his wife nor his kids were there, just a note from the police. And they get a letter from DCF.
Okay, I do have other questions, but if anybody else has a question right now? Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is the policy for false allegations? Is there a policy, and what is that?
There is no policy about that. What there is simply is practice. And what happens is that it's kind of a bad setup, because if you have the primary caretaker, who, as I said earlier, it's much more often the mother than the father. And suppose you have a worker who is not as trained as they could be. One of the things that can happen is that worker goes and hears a bad story about the father. It could be that he was violent, or it could be that he's a liar, some other colorful terms. He uses drugs or something like that. Now, the responsibility of anyone in that position is to check out what you hear and meet with that person with an open mind. And people fail to do that. They don't meet with an open mind. And it's a trap for people in this profession that you start working with one person and you develop an alliance with that person, and then you think that if you also listen to another person, you're going to break the alliance with the first person. And in fact, you should be working with both. And right from the beginning, that first person should know, I'm also going to work with the other parties here. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop listening to you, but I have a job that means I have to listen to everyone. But people lose that. So I'm not trying to justify that, I'm just trying to explain how it happens.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I'm the founder of the Academy of African American Fathers in Boston. The Academy of African American Fathers in Boston. And I founded that program in 1998 out of some of the studies that you mentioned earlier. I read some of those studies, and a lot of them revealed a lot of very, very serious issues, particularly departments, DSS used to be called back then. But one of the key underlying factors that I learned dealing with fathers is when fathers want to get involved, they don't know how to get involved. Particularly if you've been absent out of the home, and particularly in the African American community where single-parent family is just off the charts when it comes to single-parent family homes and the fathers involved, that they wasn't able to, the partner wasn't able to understand what the needs of those particular fathers want, which was the study. They was trying to, what is it the fathers need to get back together? And one of the things is that I ran into fathers, particularly incarcerated fathers. I mean, we have fathers with multiple issues, particularly in communities of color, in urban communities. They have multiple issues, drug issues, being in single-parent homes themselves, being raised in single-parent homes, and that kind of thing. And so these multiple issues are very, very troubling for states to try to deal with. And so, like you said, it was caseloads, and I remember that I actually did a writing on it, the no man in the home policy thing that from the 70s. I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm pretty much versed on it. And I can remember when my uncles and all of them used to hide when they used to have the DSS visits. But one of the other things is that was very, very important that I've also learned about fathers and their nieces today. Number one is being able to learn how to do something they were never taught before. And two, they put a responsibility on someone who doesn't know how to perform, to do their So when the Department of Social Service at the time was saying, you know something, you're a bad father because you didn't provide financially. You know, you didn't pay child support. And then they came up with this big thing about child support, deadbeat, dad, and all that. But raising a child, number one, is culture. Everybody has their cultural norms about raising families. Go culture to culture, everybody will tell you something different. In African American communities, you will get your butt whipped with a stick. And that's what the way it was. Today you go to jail for that. So one of the things that I proposed to DSS in the Family Service Plan Network, in which we and the proposal with them to do that, is number one is teaching parents new contemporary skills, not the skills that our parents taught us. Because see, when I get my butt whipped for something, you know, my kids grow up, I'm gonna use the same scenario that I got used, because it was right for me. Why isn't it right for my children? And some people take pains to that. Obviously, the department takes pains to that, law takes pains to that. So we have to learn new ways in how to deal with these different kind of issues, these new contemporary parenting issues. And so one of the things I did, I stopped the academy. And the academy is to help people train to be back to being fathers.
I just want you to know when I go to questions too.
Sure. So I understand and I appreciate everything you said, because everything you said, I actually, I read about those things. It's right on the button. It's that's the core of my program. It's really the core that motivates my program. And definitely we're going to be working together soon.
And I will add one thing to what you're saying. One of the, I think some of the stuff that happens is heartbreaking. Some men have said things like, when I showed up and, my girlfriend, or sometimes wife, sometimes girlfriend, couldn't take care of the children, and I was interested, I was capable, I had a job, I had to then prove that I really loved the kids. She doesn't have to prove it. Why do men have to prove it? And I think it's sort of like gender bias. Sometimes it favors men, sometimes it favors women. I think it tends to disadvantage both of them. And then the other thing is that if you are poor, it's bad enough if you have money and can deal with systems. But if you're poor and you're trying to fight with DCF for custody of a child who's been in foster care, and then you have to fight with the court, and then they require that you go to 5 different programs, and maybe you are not poor enough that you qualify for free care or something, you have to pay. What you find is that people, first of all, they don't know how to deal with systems, and some fatherhood programs help people learn how to deal with systems. Have a file, document things, write down who you spoke to, what they said, that kind of thing. But the other thing is that, because of the multiple systems and how they begin to push people around, you have some men, and their only problem really is that they're poor, who just give up. Who will say to someone, or their fatherhood program, or their social work, I can't do it, I can't fight the system. Take my children. And that's his loss and the children's loss. And we should not allow that. Yes?
Yeah, you made a comment about men not wanting to call DSS or DCF, whatever you call it these days. And I think basically if you go through the whole system, a lot of these guys here have been through the ringer. Before they get divorced, they get a restraining order thrown on them. So the police are against them. The courts are against them. GALs are against them. It's just another agency that we feel is against us.
Yeah.
And you basically, when you made the comment, you said we all know why. And I'm just curious, maybe from some of the people here, why they won't call DCF, and what you think why we won't call DCF. I can tell you why I won't. I've been through, and I'm not going to talk my personal situation, but I was lied to in that. And I recommend, because I run a support group in Foxford, similar to the one here, and people ask me, and I'll say, unless the kids are in life-threatening situations, do not call